I want you to look at your neighbor very closely. Achoo! Pay attention. If someone is running for his life, that's a spy. That's how I test every time when we are in the church. You just sneeze and the villains jump out of the windows. So it looks like we have a good crowd. A crowd of freedom fighters. Lions. And as you know, I have been saying this for the past 2 years, lions do not bow before hyenas. We eat them for breakfast. That's why some of us are bigger than others. And that's what happened to me. I was actually fit before the COVID kicked in, but I mean, left and right, we're chasing those hyenas wherever we go, and I beg you, I need your help. I have been eating them, breakfast, dinner, every day for 2 years. And I know some other like us have been eating them, so please help us out. Well, how about a little bit of a history lesson? I mean, from a guy with a funny accent that emigrated to this country, I found it fascinating that so many Canadians do not know their own history. And if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're heading. If you don't know your history, you will repeat the mistakes of the past generations. Right on. And that's what I like to teach in our church. And by the way, we have never shut down the doors. The doors are open. If you're looking for a church, come to Calgary. So I can harass you, not just during the rallies, I'll be able to harass you during the church services as well. And from time to time, if you're not behaving, I will lay hands on you and pray for healing. That's what we do. I remember when this craziness started, they've told me, you're not allowed to sing in a church. You're not allowed to pray for the sick. You have to keep your distance. And simply I said to them, no, you devils, you keep your distance from us. And they didn't like the answer. So here it is, a little bit of Canadian history that I find fascinating, and especially for the young kids, please, learn your history. You can't stand up for Canada with a banana for a backbone. Do you know who said that? The Right Honorable John G. Diefenbaker, the 13th Prime Minister of Canada. Let me read it again to you. You can't stand up for Canada with a banana for a backbone. If I could, that's what I would say to every clergyman, every pastor, every rabbi, every priest. Where are you, my colleagues? You have been roaring before the COVID for so long. Amazing preaching, amazing statements. Our God more powerful than the enemy. And then the COVID came. And the restrictions and the mandates. And those devils, those turncoats, those Judases Iscariots are nowhere to be found. They must hiding behind the Zoom calls. This man, John G. Diefenbaker, said, we must vigilantly stand on guard with our own borders for human rights and fundamental freedoms, which are our proud heritage. We cannot take for granted the continuance and maintenance of those rights and freedoms. So I have been standing against the forces of evil that are creeping in our beloved country for almost 20 years. I have faced attorney generals, premiers, mayors, crown prosecutors, city lawyers, corrupted politicians, propaganda lying reporters for a very long time. I faced over 100 court cases, hundreds of tickets, and about a dozen arrests. I remember one time we were talking with our lawyers, now I have 4, and I would ask them, how many tickets in the end did I get? And they said, we don't know. No one knows. I mean, they kept coming. You think miracles do not happen with the liberals? It do. They do. I remember I was in the United States for 4 months sharing my story and doing my best to awaken a sleeping lion, the great American eagle.
Woo!
And our lawyers phoned the authorities and asked this: is there any warrants for Artur Pawlowski? Can he come back? Is there anything we should be aware of? And those liars, they said no, nothing. He is able to come, no problems. There are no pending things. There are no warrants. So I called the customs. I told them I'm coming and what I'm bringing to Calgary. And then a miracle happened. During my flight, which was only 1 hour from Montana to Calgary, 2 warrants were activated. And when I arrived, I was arrested and criminally charged for not wearing a muzzle and for officiating a church service. Well, I still refuse to wear a muzzle, and I still officiate church service. Our church has been attacked without mercy by communist AHS Nazi Party of Canada many times. Armed Gestapo has been intimidating us for years, and as I speak to you today, I am still facing criminal charges with potential prison term, 19 more tickets for simply living my life and exercising my God and state given rights. I am being hunted down just because I'm a Christian. I have been arrested, charged, and found guilty by a very evil and corrupted political activist, Judge Adam Germain, for the crime of inciting people to come to church, officiating a church service, and for participating in an illegal gathering, the church service.
Oh my gosh.
For my crimes, I spent a few days in jail, and I am ordered to pay huge amounts of money to the Nazi AHS, and I am subjected to house arrest, believe it or not, in the province of Alberta. Those devils were so terrified, and if you watched the ranting of this corrupted wannabe judge, political activist Adam Germain, he was ranting for 45 minutes, telling the whole world how popular I was in the States. I guess he's jealous because no one likes him. I don't think he even has a cat. It died, suicide. Probably I would be depressed if I was living with that guy. And he was talking about I had meetings with governors and congressmen and famous people, and well, that's not your business. You were supposed to be a judge to judge the merits of the case and not my private life or where I travel and with whom I meet. But you see, why am I telling you this? Because they're afraid. They're terrified. So his judgment, he says, I am not allowed to leave the province of Alberta or I will be immediately arrested. That I am to every single time I preach in a church, every single time I speak at the rally or anywhere else, social networks, videos, or even to one individual, I am to parrot the devil, the Hinsha, or Tom, the wannabe woman. That I am to give you the communistic party line. Are you kidding me? You're talking to a Polish immigrant. We survived the Ottoman Empire. We survived the Mongolian Genghis Khan. We survived the Germans, the Nazis, and the Soviets, the communists. We will survive the corrupted Albertan politicians. He also gave me 120 hours of community service. Can you imagine? For the past 22 years, that's what I do. I feed thousands of people and I serve my community. I feed so many people. Last year we distributed over $1 million worth of food to 4 native reserves. Plus, 4 times a week, last year we were feeding the homeless population on the streets of our city, Calgary. And this judge says that we do not run a church, it's not a real church, that I have to spend 120 hours of community service in a real charity. That's how corrupted those devils are. I feed people because I love people. I don't ask, are you rich or poor, you're black or white or red or yellow. If Martians were here, I would still feed them.
Yep. Good job.
I preach about justice, rule of law, and God that hates corruption. I remind everyone that one day everyone will be accountable for their actions. That one day people will pay for what they have done and for what they have said. You see, in the end, justice will be served.
Yes, yes, it will. Yes.
Sooner or later, everyone will stand before the judge of judges, God himself. This truth for the wicked is unacceptable, unbearable. They want to pillage, murder, steal, lie, and deceive without consequences. And the notion that someone is watching and is making notes is unbearable. Evil hates accountability.
Yep.
And that's what we're seeing right now in the government, evil.
Yep.
I have been hammered by the biggest forces in this country for the past 16 years. And yet, here I am standing in front of you declaring this, that my God is bigger than their devil. That a hyena is not a match for a lion. That we, the free people of Canada, will not be subjected to tyranny. That we Canadians are the sons and daughters of the mighty ancestors that built this country based on the Word of God and the rule of law. That we Canadians will not bow before the globalistic psychopaths that have to be tried for the crimes against humanity. Lions do not bow before the hyenas.
Never, ever.
Good never bows before evil. William Penn said those words, men must be governed by God or they will be ruled by tyrants.
Yep.
I am being governed by God's law, and I refuse to be ruled by tyrants.
Yes. Yes.
If you're on God's team,
Yes.
you simply cannot lose.
Yes. Yes.
And even though I can be arrested at any moment, anywhere within the province of Alberta, I refuse to comply.
Yep.
I refuse to bow. If they want to take me, here I am, I'm not hiding.
Good job. Yes.
They know where I am.
Oh yeah, they're probably watching.
Remember that the wicked giant in front of you is never bigger than the mighty God that is inside of you.
Yes. Here. Yep.
Today again we have the opportunity to stand on the legacy of the past generations. We have the obligation to forward the desires of those that have given us this beautiful nation. So I want to remind you a little bit about the history of how this country was formed. In 1867, Canadian delegates in London debated whether the new nation which they were designing should be called the Kingdom of Canada, or the Republic of Canada, or something else. One of the participants was Sir Samuel Tilley, who was the Premier of New Brunswick at that time. Like many of the other delegates in London, he was a devout Christian. One morning, during his morning devotion in London, he read Psalm 72, and he was struck by verse 8, which reads, He shall have dominion from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth. Later that day, as the delegates were debating the relative merits of kingdom or republic of something or something else to describe Canada, he suggested that dominion might be a good word, referring to this text in Psalm 72. The new united country was to be under God, not under Trudeau, not under Kenny, not under wannabe woman Tom, not under the tyrant wannabe Dr. Hinshaw, under God.
Yes.
And moreover, before long it was to stretch literally from sea to sea, from the Atlantic to the Pacific. The other delegates agreed, as did the British Prime Minister and Queen Victoria. And so Dominion became the official designation of Canada. This is also why July 1st, national holiday, which we now call Canada Day, was called Dominion Day until 1982. So listen to the words of this powerful declaration, the Psalm 72. This is what this nation was supposed to stand for. Endow the king with your justice, O God, the royal son with your righteousness. He will judge your people in righteousness, your afflicted ones with justice. He will defend the afflicted among the people and save the children of the needy. Not to hurt them, not to punish them, but to save them with justice and righteousness. He will endure as long as the sun, as long as the moon, through all generations. May the king's rule be refreshing like spring rain, or freshly cut grass like showers that water the earth. May all the godly flourish. And that's what I hate the most. Did you notice that there is a huge target on Christianity right now?
Yeah.
Pastors arrested left and right. For what?
Not the power.
For being essential services that they say are unessential. Shutting down churches and keeping abortion clinic open. Shutting the churches and keeping Walmart open. Shutting the churches and punishing the clergymen for doing their job and keeping liquor store open, IKEA open.
Costco. Yeah.
May all the godly flourish during his reign. May there be abundant prosperity until the moon is no more. He shall have dominion from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth.
Yes.
That's what God wanted for this nation.
Yes. God did.
For he will deliver the needy who cry out. We are the needy. It's time for Canadians to cry out to God. We have a big need. We are needy people. We need his strength, his power. People come to me every single day. How come you can stay strong? How come you're not depressed? How come you're not suicidal? How come you're not turning to drugs and alcohol? The answer is simple. Because I have God on my side. I don't need to drink like this corrupted Kenny man. I don't need to have party in parliament or legislatures. I don't need that stuff. You see, those people are so wicked. They cannot live with themselves. That's why they're turning into drugs and alcohol. I look in the mirror and I don't hate what I see. They look in the mirror and they hate what they see. They see corruption, they see evil, they see treachery. Bribe after bribe, evil after evil. He will take pity on the weak and the needy and save the needy from death. He will rescue them from oppression and violence, and that's what we need.
Yes.
We need God to save us, rescue us from oppression and violence, for precious is their blood in his sight. May grain abound throughout the land, on the tops of the hills may it sway. May the crops flourish like Lebanon and thrive like the grass of the field. May his name endure forever. May it continue as long as the sun. Then all nations will be blessed through him.
Yes.
And they will call him blessed. Praise be to the Lord God, the God of Israel, who alone does marvelous deeds. Praise be to his glorious name forever. May the whole earth be filled with his glory.
Woo! Yes.
Amen and amen. John Diefenbaker said those words. Parliament is more than procedure. It is the custodian of the nation's freedom.
Yes.
Freedom.
Yes. Freedom.
Let me read this again. I don't think you got it. Parliament is more than procedure. You see, those people think that then just by showing up and blah, blah, blah here and blah, blah, blah there, they've done their duty. No.
No.
Their duty is to stand for the nation's freedom. That's their job. Today we need true Canadians. Those in power are un-Canadian. Real patriots that will rise up and replace the traitors that we see now in the places of power. We need again Diefenbakers.
Yes.
When Canada was to have its own coat of arms in 1921, it was decided to pick up on this reference to dominion from sea to sea. In the official Canadian coat of arms, we have the Latin words "Mare usque ad mare," which means from sea to sea. Again, a direct quote from Psalm 72. So wherever you see the Canadian coat of arms, in your passports, for example, or on other official government documents, you have before your eyes the reminder of the Christian origins of our country. John Diefenbaker said those words, "There can be no dedication to Canada's future without the knowledge of its past."
Right on.
Yep.
In some version of the Canadian coat of arms, you will notice that it has another powerful Latin phrase, "Desiderantes meliorem patriam," which means longing for a better country, straight from Hebrews 11 verse 6. But there is even more to the story. When Canada adopted its own flag in 1965, the originally proposed design, which was favored by Prime Minister Pearson, had two blue bars on the right and left edges representing the Atlantic and the Pacific. This was explicitly designed to allude to the extent of Canada from sea to sea. Although the final design changed the colors from blue to red, the bars on neither side of the flag still remind us of this connection with the phrase, "He shall have dominion from sea to sea." Throughout Canadian history, there has been an intimate connection between this biblical phrase and our country. As we remind ourselves in this season of remembrance, lest we forget and never again. How many times you've said those words? How many times the mainstream media brought those verses in front of your eyes? Just a couple days ago, I was driving in the middle of downtown Calgary, Alberta. And behold, there is this LED lights, and it says, "Freedom is never free." Unless we forget. And I said to myself, stop the car. I have to do a little video. Those lying, deceiving hypocrites.
Yep.
They have arrested a veteran because he was not double vaxxed.
Yep. Sickening.
He fought during the Iraq. He fought during the Gulf War. And he could not be honored as a veteran because he refused to bow before Canadian tyranny. And he was arrested by the Calgary police. And yet, those politicians dare to give us their slogans that they do not care for.
Shame on them.
Shame on them.
Yes.
Shame on those devils in government.
Yes.
Never again, lest we forget. And we have already forgotten. You do not know where you are going unless you remember, you know where you came from. The past is as important as the future. That's why in our Bible, majority of the text is giving us history. God, in His mercy, has decided to give us history with a message. Do not forget. Learn from the mistakes of the past generations. Do not repeat the same mistakes.
Yes.
The corrupted, evil politicians are telling us that we cannot speak. The judges are putting muzzles on our lips. The media has chosen to lie and manipulate, forwarding the enslavement of the population implemented by the liberal NDP and the so-called conservative turncoats, the Communist Nazi Party of Canada.
Yep.
To all those villains, traitors, and hypocrites, I have this to say. Are you ready? I will never bow before you. I will never stop preaching the truth. You can bring 100 corrupted judges like Adam Germain or the Rook Crook, and I shall not submit to tyranny. You see, because I am a Canadian, free to speak without fear,
Yes.
free to worship in my own way,
Yes.
free to stand for what I think is right, free to oppose what I believe wrong, or free to choose those who shall govern my country. This heritage of freedom I pledge to uphold for myself and all mankind. Those are the words from John Diefenbaker.
Yes.
So help me God. Thank you.
Thank you.
Many people are coming to me and here's what they're saying. Are the rallies doing anything? Is this doing anything? Well, first of all, it boosts our morale. An army that has a very weak morale is easy target. And trust me, I'm a hunter. You always look for a weak creature that you can shoot. And that's why they said to you and me, social distancing. Why do you think they said social distancing, not physical distancing? Because they don't want this. They don't want the exchange of information. They don't want us to know that we're not alone.
Yes.
They want us to be separated, depressed. They want us to feel that we are the only ones, that we are the crazy ones.
Yep. Yep.
But the truth is, they are
They are.
the crazy ones.
Yes.
Another thing is, what next? So we're going to march in a minute. And then we're going to go home facing the giants again. So here, what I'm proposing. And listen to this Polish guy that grew up watching Solidarity movement win against the biggest empire during that time, the Soviets.
Yeah.
We need to form our own government outside of their system. We need to grow by the hundreds of thousands. Soon we're going to launch a new movement. Solidarity movement, just like it happened in Poland. And let me remind you that Solidarity movement brought the Soviets to their knees, broke the Iron Curtain, and took down the Berlin Wall. That's how powerful the unified force of the people is, and they're terrified. We're going to form our own government, our own court system that there is more of us than of them. Do not trust, do not believe the propaganda media. They're liars, they're cheaters. And do not fear those wannabe tyrants. The Bible says 365 times for every day in a year. This is what God says to you and me. Fear not. Do not be afraid. Why? Because the greater is He that is in us than the one that is in them. So be courageous, Canadians.
Yes.
Stay strong.
Yes.
Be bold.
Yes.
Keep roaring. Be Canadian Lions.